started. Let's go. Professor Colin Giles, Acting President of the University of Technology. Ms. Carol Richard, Chaplain, University of Technology. Ms. Kim Mayer, CEO of JMMB Foundation. Ms. Deborah Mulan, General Manager, Strategic Services, DBJ. Deans of colleges, heads of schools, faculty, other special invited guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this very important launch of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor 2021-22 National Report. This report has become the gold standard of research on entrepreneurship around the world. The key indicators tracked by this GEM report are: 1, entrepreneurial intention; total early stage entrepreneurial activity, known as their TEA; established business ownership, the EBO; and business closures. Today, our national GEM team, sitting right here to my left, will take you through the key findings, share some important insights and recommendations from this report. As a university, our mandate is to do research, and we are therefore happy to have you with us to share the results of this very important and consequential report. At this time, I'd like to invite the chaplain of the university to bless the proceedings. Chaplain.
Good afternoon, everyone. Note while I sat in the seat, well suited to my height and legs, so I can just slip off, Well, it's an honor to be here with you, and I am just so sorry that I'm not seeing more young people. I think I'm going to have to send a message to the present president of the Student Union, if he still has that role at this point. I'm not even quite sure because they're about to change. Well, let's just go before the Lord, and I pray for that as well. You may remain seated as I pray. Father, we are so grateful to you for the honor and the privilege to be a part of this university and the milestones that we have reached in so many areas. But particularly in this area, we want to ask that your Holy Spirit will lead and guide and direct so that we will only experience more and more success in these areas. Lord, we know as we look to the future that entrepreneurship is key, particularly for the upcoming generations. We have seen what it has done, and we're going to hear even more today. We ask that you bless every single presenter. Help us to be able to articulate ourselves really well so that we will have a very good understanding of where we are at and where we are heading by the end of this evening. We want to give you thanks for the leadership and those who have come up with the ideas. We know that this is an idea faculty, and we just pray that you will continue to birth new ideas among the leadership, the staff, and the students. So we commit this evening into your hands with thanksgiving in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Chaplain. It is my pleasure now to invite the Acting President, Professor Colin Giles, to bring his remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, all, you're looking bright and beautiful. And I know that those who are joining online are just as beautiful, but I'm unable to see them. But I'm sure they're able to see me and hear me well. Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Prince Graham Haynes, Acting Head, John Duncan School of Entrepreneurship, Ethics and Leadership. And I understand the Honorable Auburn Hill is joining us online, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Dr. Andrea Sutherland, Dean, College of Business and Management. Members of the GEM research team. Members of faculty and staff, students, and special recognition to our sponsors, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all good afternoon. It is indeed a pleasure for me to join you this afternoon to celebrate the launch of this very important publication, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor Jamaica Report for 2021 to 2022. This marks the 4th occasion that UTech Jamaica, led by our College of Business and Management, is leading the GEM research project. And this has been going on since 2005. It has been 5 years since the results of the previous survey was published in Jamaica. And so this new report comes at a very significant and timely juncture. Of course, I need not remind you of the circumstances of the last 2 to 3 years, COVID-19, and all that went with it. And I say went because I think we are getting past the stage when it was most critical. It's not gone completely though, so we still have to be mindful. I note that the report focuses on the effects of the pandemic on entrepreneurial activity and the resultant changes in Jamaica's entrepreneurial landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, as you're aware, GEM Global hosts the largest study of global entrepreneurship activity, and it highlights emerging trends in economies. UTech Jamaica continues to be happy to be associated with this not-for-profit academic research consortium. I just want to extend congratulations to the COBAM team, led by Mrs. Terrian Gaynor Clark. She's the life of the party. Who has worked tirelessly to ensure the production of this 2021-2022 GEM Jamaica Country Report. One of the key objectives of GEM is to answer the question, how does entrepreneurial activity contribute to national and international economic prosperity? The second key objective is to determine what can governments do to enhance the level of entrepreneurial activity. UTech Jamaica, through the enterprise of its researchers, is happy to be doing our part to provide significant evidence-based new knowledge in response to these important questions pertaining to economic development in our country. The GEM Jamaica Country Reports produced by UTech Jamaica over the years have been a useful reference or source of reference in efforts aimed at enhancing the level of entrepreneurial activity in our country. The GEM Jamaica reports have also been beneficial to academics and to entrepreneurs in providing them with sound knowledge on making investment decisions about their entrepreneurial ventures. The university is committed to conducting high-impact, interdisciplinary, and applied research, such as this GEM project. that focuses on important areas of economic life in our country. The university's participation in this research project is aligned to our mission, which is to positively impact Jamaica, the Caribbean, and elsewhere through high-quality opportunities for learning, research, and value-added services to government, industry, and communities. This piece of research is further well aligned with the National Vision 2030 Development Plan, which has among its related goals developing the capabilities of the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, and supporting entrepreneurial talents and creativity for people. We look forward shortly to hearing from the GEM research team details about the wealth of data that they would have been able to gather and analyze and present to us. In closing, I just want to acknowledge the support of our sponsors who came on board to support the production of this very important research project. The DBJ provided $5 million in sponsorship, and we are most grateful. And the Joan Duncan Trust provided sponsorship of $2.5 million. We are most grateful. Give them a round of applause. We are grateful to both these organizations who have been long-time partners with the University of Technology Jamaica, and in particular with the Joan Duncan School of Entrepreneurship, Ethics and Leadership and the TIC. Thank you so much. Again, a warm welcome to everyone, and I thank you all for being here, and we look forward to valuable insights from the information that will be shared with us by the team of researchers who conducted this research. So once again, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Prof. Giles. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are pleased to have joining us remotely from the GEM Global Executive Director, Mrs. Aileen Lonescu Summers, with her remarks. She will be joining us remotely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. We'd like to invite Mrs. Kim Mayer to do the sponsors' remark.
Chairman. Not guilty. Acting President, Professor Giles, I haven't seen you for a while. It's so good to see you. Members of the university community. I see a couple of students have come in. A couple. Our DBJ partners, our researchers, specially invited ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Trustees Patricia Duncan Sutherland and Donna Duncan Scott are unavoidably absent this evening, and they have asked me to offer their apologies and their congratulations on the job done. I'm happy to represent the JMMB Joan Duncan Foundation and the Joan Duncan Trust on this occasion as a co-sponsor of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor 2021 Jamaica Report, which we know as GEM, and it is a gem. This partnership is in keeping with the agenda of the Trust and the Foundation to advance and promote entrepreneurship ethics and leadership within our society. It is against this thrust for ethical leadership in entrepreneurship that the Trust has sought to also ensure that a component on ethics and leadership was addressed as part of the study. Without giving away any of the findings, we believe that it is part of our responsibility to contribute to the examination, nurture, and promotion of ethical principles in business and, by extension, our society in order to move Jamaica forward. This focus as part of the study will therefore allow us to shine the spotlight on our local context and determine next steps. The Joan Duncan Trust understands that entrepreneurs, as they assist in bringing innovation to market, expanding human welfare, and providing inspiration and building the communities in which they operate. It is therefore our responsibility to form these partnerships with an understanding that we are part of a wider chain of society and play our part in supporting the recovery, growth, and transformation of Jamaica, the region, and the world. The GEM reports have been beneficial to academics, policymakers, and to entrepreneurs in providing them with sound knowledge to inform decision-making, and this study will no doubt give us a close-up view of our own realities, emerging trends, and other key findings, while providing practical recommendations tailored for Jamaica and benchmarked against global best practices and trends. We look forward to receiving the report, and I close by commending the researchers for their dedication to this ongoing area of research and acknowledge the Joan Duncan School of Entrepreneurship, Ethics and Leadership and the University of Technology for their continued focus on an evidence-based approach to entrepreneurship and education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to be asking Mrs. Deborah Newland, General Manager, Strategic Services from DBJ, to give the main sponsors remark.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Chairman, Professor Gals, wonderful to see you. To the researchers, including my own research team at DBJ. Without them, I'm not sure that the importance of our sponsorship for this very important study would have happened. And so it's very important for me to recognize them as well. In no particular order, of course. Minister Hill, we hope that you have joined us, and if so, salutations to the Minister. I know that in the environment of data-driven decision-making and moving Jamaica towards a digital economy and a digital society, studies such as this report are going to be even more important than we probably recognize today. DBJ, as part of its thrust, is moving our development partners, our international and local development partners, towards data-driven decision-making. And studies such as this will form the foundation of a lot of the work that the Development Bank of Jamaica will be doing, not only on its own, through the ministries, departments, and agencies, but also through the universities and other think tanks. And so it's crucial for us to play a role here. We gave a commitment last we were here, I think a year ago, when we did the handover of our contribution to the study, that we were looking forward to partnering with UTEC going forward on several more applied research. We have a few in our pipeline to discuss with you. And after today, we will certainly like to have some meetings with you so that we can drill down and make sure that we make that promise real and put it into action. I'd like to speak a little bit about the fact that the DBJ's work under MSME ecosystem development is not something that is, maybe for the students here, something that's top of mind. A major role of the Development Bank of Jamaica is to support MSMEs. Entrepreneurs, I think at this point we're averaging about 70% female entrepreneurs that we support at the DBJ now. And throughout the COVID period, which I think some of the information that will come out of this study, throughout the COVID period, we saw an uptake of our resources and grant and loan and equity financing products that we're going to women. And so that's something that the data will drive us further to look at how we can better support female entrepreneurs. We live in a matriarchal society. This is not strange to the region. And so things like exogenous shocks that the country has experienced, hurricanes, the pandemic, they impact women significantly. And so there is a neat intersection in where gender and climate studies meet. And so we intend to do some additional applied research. We would love UTEC to be or one of our partners in doing that. And we are very, very excited to have this actual report. We've been talking about it internally to the bank for some time. And we have been talking to our international development partners about it and the importance of it to us. So we want to say special thanks to the Joan Duncan Foundation, to the researchers. We want to pay special thanks to people who are here today to listen to what the researchers have found, and to the people who will spend the time to understand the significance of it and to understand what it's going to mean to us as a people. And so with that, we would really, commit to you today that we will be a long-term partner on this GEM study, and we will, thank you, and we will further commit to working along with the university in other ways that we can add value to the development of our society.
Okay, thank you so much. If we're joined by the minister online, I'd like to tell you that he was trying to come, and he was unavoidably absent. So if he's online, sir, welcome. And I'm glad you're here with us. So we'll want to invite now Professor Colin Giles, Dr. Andrea Sutherland, and our two sponsors to just walk right to the beside that podium, that easel over there. We're going to unveil the study. This is an exciting time. Drum roll, right? So could you join them, please? Thank you. All right, so we're going to see how our study look, and we're going to go after 3. Okay, so how are we going to do it now, Andrea? So what? All right, let's go. 1, 2, from the front. 2, 3. Woo! you. That's our study. Thank you so much. Pictures? Oh, yeah. So, Dr. Stallone, we're going to ask you to just hand this study. Dr. Stallone, could you just stay for me? Oh, you're switching. Okay, switching. Dr. Stallone will now hand a copy of the report to each of. So we're handing a copy of the report to DBJ, JMMB, and Professor Collington. Yeah. But the copy. Okay, so those copies are yours. Yes. Kim? Yeah. Mhm. Okay, thank you so much, Professor Giles. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we're gonna now have entertainment. We're gonna have Mr. Randy Mark giving us some entertainment, and then we go back right into the study, the report. Okay, Mr. Randy Mark, come on up. Let's hear it for him, please. Let's hear it for him.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Them not feeding you yet. All right. We're here to talk about entrepreneurship. All right, so that's a good thing. It's the people that will ensure that the economy and tax people get work and people have jobs and we'll be productive. All right, so I'm interested in hearing some of the findings from this global entrepreneurship monitor. As an entrepreneur myself, some of you may know Brescia. That's a team, a company I started with my brother 8 years ago now. On our veranda in East Kingston, two little country boy. Right? And so we are proud entrepreneurs and we're here in the spirit of entrepreneurship. I have not done a piece of spoken word poetry in the longest while. But my dear friend Erica said, Randy, this is happening and you have to come and do something. So I literally asked her to print my poem. I am an entrepreneur that I'll be sharing with you this afternoon. I don't know if I have time to share two, but I have two pieces here that I'll be sharing with you this afternoon. So outside of being an entrepreneur, I am a creative entrepreneur as well as a dub poet. That's what I did 8 years ago before starting Brescia as a performer. All right, so anybody here is an entrepreneur? Let me see your hand. I want you to say, I am an entrepreneur. Come again, man. I am an... Yeah, man. I feel with time and them can't ignore because I am an... Tired for knock, so we kick down the door because I am an... We have a people, planet, and profit at the core because I am an... And a mission now stop till we score because I am an entrepreneur. Things won't always be perfect. No, things won't always be good. Sometimes they will buck you too, but that is when your fighting spirit must show. Battle the pain, the heat, the snow. Battle the pain, the heat, and the way to go. Up working hard while others are asleep, a snore. But know this for sure. That is the life of an... Yup, we must be the change. This generation playing our part to develop this nation through job creation, providing motivation, inspiration. Many don't realize that success take enough determination. I say, I feel with time and them can't ignore because I am an... Tired for knock, so me kick down the door because I am an entrepreneur. Me have people, planet, and profit at the core. You see, I am an entrepreneur. And a mission, nah, stop till me score. Because you see me, I am an... Now, if entrepreneurship is a race, I am like Usain Bolt. In it, to win it. Rule and regulation, know when and when not to stay within it. Positive disruptors, rupturing the boundaries of what is conceived as possible. Keep your integrity. I said to stay out of trouble. My brothers and sisters, step out each day in faith, understanding that a positive difference is what we must make. The future movers and shakers, destiny shapers. We are entrepreneurs, unstoppable. We are entrepreneurs, well-trained, capable. We are entrepreneurs. Let's keep doing it for good. That's the only way we know we should do it. Because we are entrepreneurs. I feel with time and them can't ignore me say I am an entrepreneur. Tired for knocks and me kick down the door because I... People, planet, and profit at the core cause I on a mission now stop till me score cause I am an entrepreneur. Sure. Never go on too bad if somebody were rusty. Don't. Never go on too bad. Say, go on, Randy. Go on, Randy. Alright, I feel like I'm ready to come out of retirement now and go perform again. I love it. So I have time to share one more? I read them say, yes! Like me could have do all 3 and 4 and 5. A joke. So another one I have on paper here, it's called teamwork. Don't? You know, so that project you're launching this today would never happen if it wasn't for teamwork. And a one person to do research. And a one person here today telling us about the research. It's not one sponsor. Right, my friends at DBJ, JMB Foundation. It's a collaborative effort. And that Brescia, one of our core values says, collaborate to be great. And we believe that strongly. Right? And so I wrote this years ago, this spoken word dub poem called Teamwork. And I thought it would be fit and appropriate to share this one as well this afternoon. So you know, me love get people involved. Me not like just the up here so I read by myself. All right? So I said, well, so I say it must work more. You're going to say teamwork. I said it must work when we use. All right. I say it must work. When we use everyone putting out them effort, it must work with the right policy. Things work for everybody. Me say it must work. When I use everyone putting out them effort, it must work with the right policy. Things work for everybody. Follow me. Whether you're a student, staff, a lecturer, you're a part of the team, a stakeholder, where we all have the same goals in sight and the core values, set everything right. Now, integrity. You ever hear about it? Ever hear about it? Oh no, ever hear about it? And my grandfather made me know about it. Him say, anywhere you go, boy, don't leave it. Foundation for all good relationship. I say, without it, the ship will go sink. Quicker than the time when you take we think. So be loyal, gorgeous character, organization run better, and you will remain a trendsetter. Yes, me boy. I say it must work when you use teamwork. Everyone putting out them effort. I say it must work with the right policy. Things work for everybody. Good leadership is around there again. Good leadership is very vital. So stick to it like a true Rastaman. Stick to the ital. Approachable, honest, frank. The vision of the team is important. Now, as a leader, rank no matter. Responsible people hold things together. Growth and development. That are the aim. With all good practices, we all stand to gain. I say it must work when we use everyone putting out them effort. I say it must work with the right policy. Things work for everybody. Me say it must work when we use teamwork. Everyone putting out them effort. It must work with the right policy. Things work for everybody. Greetings. Thank you very much. Randy Mack is the name. I'm an entrepreneur. So follow Brescia on IG. Check us out on Instagram. And my website is roastbybrescia.com if you need a nice backpack or duffel bag personalized as a gift. Thank you so much. I decided to get that plug in.
Thank you, Randy. Well, it must work if you need. I don't sound good. All right. Okay, thank you so much. So we're at the time where I'm going to invite to the podium Mrs. Terry Gaynor Clark, to the podium to present the thing. But before she comes, I'd like for us to just focus for a while on the team. So I'm going to call her name, Mrs. Terry Gaynor Clark. Lead. Could you show your hands and stand and with the camera? Very good work. Dr. Andrea Sutherland, Dean of COBAM. Let's hear it for them. They did the work. They did the work. Dr. Garnet Sinclair Maraj, could you stand? Mr. Orville Brown, lecturer, COBAM. And Mrs. Erica Donaldson, JD Seal. And last but not least, no means least, we have Mr. Nigel Cooper, immediate past head of school for JDC. Let's hear it for him. He's not here, he's online. So I now hand over to Terry and the team to present what we came here for. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I invite Mr. Brown with me to the podium as well. I'm very, very happy about today's launch. We are, right, team? All right. So the protocol having been observed, we will proceed into our presentation. The COVID-19 pandemic, without a doubt, has been a very turbulent but unique period in all our lives. It has changed the entrepreneurial ecosystem locally and globally. We all feel different in how we communicate with persons, how we conduct business, right? And economies are basically evolving to deal with all of these changes. I'm therefore honored, along with all Jamaica writing team, as we were just introduced, and our sponsors, because without them, we would not be standing here today, right, team? All right. So we are going to be presenting the highlights from Jamaica because it's very important to our stakeholders, the academics, the entrepreneurs, the sponsors, the policymakers, for different reasons they are able to use the information that we have to do research, to increase their knowledge about entrepreneurship, to collaborate with us, and most importantly for the policymakers, to make very important decisions and recommendations and compare ourselves with other economies worldwide as to where we stand, where we can go, and where we want to go. You following me?
Well, the GEM Jamaica writing team would like to note that the data was collected at the most turbulent time in Jamaica's entrepreneurial history. While there were many negative results, there were also positive results. Therefore, we hope that these key findings that we'll be presenting this evening will be very important insight to you all.
Do not be alarmed if you see a lot of graphs. Our figures, we are here to make it present it to you as simple and clarify as much as possible, all right? It also includes a special feature, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which Dr. Sinclair Mirage will speak on, and Dr. Andrea Sutherland and Mrs. Erica Donaldson will conclude the team's recommendation.
So we therefore invite you to do an in-depth reading of this report, and we look forward to continued discussion to how we as a nation can partner together to foster entrepreneurship for growth and prosperity in Jamaica.
For the sake of this evening's proceedings, we will have to define entrepreneurship because it has many different definitions worldwide, right? So we're going to use the one that GEM uses. GEM defines entrepreneurship as any attempt at new business or new venture creation, such as self-employment, a new business organization, or the expansion of an existing business by an individual, a team of individuals, or an established business. So for the sake of today, this is what we're using as our definition. Now, during the 2021-22 cycle, there were 50 economies that participated in the GEM research. Over the years, it has had up to 120 economies. During that period, we had 50 economies. Now, they are categorized according to GEM in different categories. Level A, B, and C. And as you can see highlighted, Jamaica is in the level C category. That is because our GDP per capita is less than 20,000. Now, if you look under the level C category, you'll realize that we are just one of two Caribbean countries that were involved in the research, but Jamaica was the only English-speaking one. So to be specific, how was the GEM Jamaica data collected? We used two key sources, the Adult Population Survey and the National Expert Survey. The Adult Population Survey is used by GEM economists to learn more about the entrepreneurship ecosystem. It provides an analysis of the characteristics, motivations, and ambitions of individuals starting businesses, as well as their social attitudes towards entrepreneurship. Specifically, we used 2,300 adult respondents in the age group of 18 to 64 over the 14 parishes. And next year we have 14 parishes. During the August 5 to December 30th period. And our vendor was Coastal Market Research and Data Mining Services. Thank you, Dr. Afis Ishmael, for your services. The other one that we used was the National Expert Survey. Now, this instrument collected data on important areas of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is used to rank countries. It looks at the national context in which individuals start businesses using 13 economic framework conditions. In Jamaica, many are the direct responsibility of the government. Specifically, we use 39 experts from different professions, and it took place between May 1 to June 30th, 2021, and it was an online survey. So it was easy for the experts to go in, put in their information, make their recommendations.
Well, James' most well-known indicator for total early-stage entrepreneurial activity is referred to as the TEA rate. TEA rate is just a percentage of the adults that are starting or running a new business. The TEA rate can be categorized as nascent entrepreneurs or baby business. Now, in Jamaica, in the 2021 report, the TEA rate was 6.5%. This is down from the 2016-2017 level of 9.9, and it's also below the global average of 13.5%. The established business rate is 6.3% in 2022, compared to 2016-17 is down compared to 8.2%. The global average is slightly below at 6.77. So here you can see that both the TEA and the established business rate is down. Now, when we compare ourselves to other level C economies, we can see here that Jamaica is the second to last in this group at 6.5%. The highest ranked level C economy is that of Dominican Republic at 41.9%.
We will now answer some key questions based on the survey results. So throughout, what we're going to do is put the questions and then we'll answer them so you can easily follow. So what are the social demographics of the entrepreneurs in Jamaica? Are men more likely than women to start a new business in Jamaica? Well, we have 59% of females and 41% of males. That was the first, it was happening throughout the cycle. Traditionally, the new business world has been male-oriented, but according to successive Gem reports, this is changing locally and globally. Jamaica is only one of 5 economies whose percentage women exceeded that of men. The others were Kazakhstan, Spain, Dominican Republic, and Morocco, and these are most level Cs. So, I mean, that's a good thing. Women empowerment. Not saying nothing about the men, just need to encourage us, all right? Now, who is most likely to start a new business in Jamaica? Are graduates more than non-graduates willing to start? Well, the majority of the TA was among persons who were between 25 and 34 years, with 32.7%. Young persons were between 18 to 34 category, and that took up 58.7%. So this exceeded the older group, who only had 41.3% in the older category. This is consistent with the GEM Global report, where the findings show that in majority of the GEM economies, entrepreneurial activity is highest with the young group, as they exceeded that of the older group in 36 of the 47 available data economies. Now, graduates used here refers to individuals who have the highest educational attainment is post-secondary qualification, right? Using a bachelor's degree or higher. In general, graduates are more likely than non-graduates to start new businesses. This was the case for 36 of the 47 GEM economies, but this was not the case for Jamaica. 78.7% of the TEAs were non-graduates, and 21.3% were graduates. The 11 economies in which entrepreneurship rate for non-graduate exceeds that of graduates includes 2 level C's, the Moroccans and the South Africans. Now, which parish is more prevalent in entrepreneurial activity? Well, the data shows that majority of TEA in the APS lives in St. Andrew with 28% and 19% in St. Catherine. And they're borderlining parishes, right? Side by side. The lowest being my home parish, St. Anne. Now, in regards to income, you will see that less than 20 million, we have TEAs falling in that category with the highest amount. And we have separated the TEAs into nascent and baby business. But regardless, majority of the income levels were less than 20 million. In 22 of the 47 economies, more than 1 in adults agreed that their household income decreased during this period. Now we must be careful that the data here, even though we use this as the income levels, the World Bank, which is also a popular data source, uses different income categories. The next question, therefore, is, how do you, as entrepreneurs, view entrepreneurship?
Hi. How about what Jamaicans' attitude towards starting a business? Now, Jim used 3 indicators to reflect this. And the first one is the high status given to entrepreneurs. First of all, looking at the graph, you can see that when we compare the 2021 findings to 2016 findings, all these indicators are lower, which has some significant implications. Take, for example, the high status given to entrepreneurs. You can see that in 2016, we were ranked 4th. Now, 28 other countries have better scores than Jamaica. When it comes on to good career choice, entrepreneurship being viewed as a good career choice, that result is almost devastating. As we can see that the score is at its lowest ranking since the survey began in 2005. Not to mention media attention, in which 2016 we were ranked the highest globally. Sad news there. But how does Jamaica perceive opportunities, challenges, and their own capabilities of starting a business? Now, on this graph, we are comparing the Jamaica result to the global average and the average of level C economies. Now, the positive indicator here is that Jamaicans perceive themselves as very capable in starting business. They believe that they have the knowledge, the skills, and the experience to start a new business. And here we can see that Jamaica's ranking is above the global average as well as the average for level C economies. The average is also above the global average when it comes on to knowing someone who has started a business. It is quite likely that if you're familiar or you know someone who's an entrepreneur, you'll be encouraged to start a business. So perceived opportunity and knowing someone who has started a business, those are good indication, are good results for Jamaica. However, when it comes on to perceived opportunity and the ease of starting business, we are below the global averages. The fear of failure is also an area where we have seen that the persons who see good business opportunity but would reluctant to take on these opportunities because they fear that your business might fail is also below the global average. So here we have an opportunity as all our stakeholders to do something about this. Now, which sector accounts for the highest entrepreneurial activity in Jamaica? Now, in this year's report, the categories were a bit different. GEM established 4 broad sectors, which are the extractive sector, and those include oils and mining and agriculture as well. The transforming sector includes the manufacturing and transportation, business service, which includes communication and professional services, as well as consumer services, which includes hotels, restaurants, retailing, and professional services. Well, on the graph, you can see that predominantly, Jamaica can be considered as a consumer-oriented environment, which 73% of the established business, as well as 72.3% of the TEA, that accounts for most of the activity in Jamaica. Now, what proportion of the sales? Jem asked a question as well. What proportion of sales do you anticipate from customers outside of the country? In this question, it was very surprising to know that most businesses in Jamaica, 74% of the TEA and 78% of the established business, do not expect any revenues from overseas. This is very disappointing, as the majority of these businesses expect sales, majority of their sales from the local market. Only 26% of the TEA and 23% of the established business expect to earn any revenue from overseas. Now, the graph right here indicates the allocation of revenues from overseas. According to GEM's benchmark, this is below the 25% that is acceptable for internationalization. Another indicator is, do new business expect to employ more people than established business? Now, in this indicator as well, we can see that the majority of business expect to employ, not to employ anyone, as most of the business that were set up with the objective of survival during the pandemic. I have to leave this one already. Are Jamaicans more innovative?
Okay. The inclusion of technology is an additional measure of growth, as most of the technological innovations in Jamaica are little to non-existent. A majority of our entrepreneurs are using little to non-existent technology. The survey results indicate extremely low levels of technology in the sectors, with 97% using none or low technology, with only 3% using high technology in the TEAs. It is noted that established businesses did not utilize high technology in their firms and only depended on the low or no use of technology in their firms. This has not improved since 2016-17. However, the expectations about the inclusion of technology in the next 6 months were 35% for TEAs and 15% for established firms. Notably, when Jamaica is compared to similar low-income countries of the GEM level C economies, the prediction is much lower. Another important question asked was, how socially and environmentally responsible are entrepreneurs? It is important while discussing economic growth that we consider social and environmental consequences. The APS asked specifically about those who are starting or running new businesses and those running established businesses. They were always considering social or environmental implications when making decisions about the future of their business. It is encouraged that vast majority of those running new or established businesses said that they always consider social and environmental implications. But we should note that the new businesses consider the social implications more than the established, while established consider the environmental implications more than the new businesses. However, these scores still fall far below the average rates of level C economies. It is noteworthy that this view contradicts the opinion of the experts, as 77.2% of the experts disagreed with the statement that due to the pandemic, a substantial number of new and growing firms are prioritizing and protecting the environment above profitability of growth. And the next question, therefore, is, are businesses exiting because of the pandemic?
Well, the answer to this question is yes, there were some businesses that exit because of the pandemic. But the number one reason we find in the study is that the most popular reason for discontinuation is because of family or personal reason. The pandemic ranked second with 27.8%. The least reason for exiting the business would be problems in getting financing. Now we are going to look at some specific impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on entrepreneurship.
According to Stephen Hill 2022, living with the pandemic has certainly raised awareness of the business opportunities it brings to it. It was found that the implications for entrepreneurs differ. Because has the pandemic provided new opportunities to start a business? Even though the actions of governments to minimize the impact of COVID-19 pandemic have affected business operations and disrupted economic activity all over the country, they were perceived more effective amongst EBOs than TEAs. 43% of the TEAs and 30% of the EBOs agreed that the coronavirus pandemic provided new opportunities for the pursuance of business in Jamaica. In 16 of the 48 gem economies, more than half of those starting or running new business agreed that the pandemic provided new opportunities. This is below the average of other level C economies, as they had TA of 48.3 and the EBOs of 40.3 respectively. How does entrepreneurs and experts view government efforts to mitigate the impact of the pandemic? The APS revealed that most of the entrepreneurs, 70% of the EBO and 59% of the TA, agree that the government has so far effectively responded to the economic consequences of the pandemic. The experts also revealed that 69.2% agree that the government is making effective decisions to control the health crisis, while harming the economy as little as possible. Only 40.5% of experts believe that the measure adopted by the government during the first 12 months have helped avoid a significant decline in the number of new and growing firms and their associated jobs. The national report provides a more in-depth assessment of the government response during the pandemic, and I hope you do some reading on that.
So this is a particular question which we believe our sponsors have particular interest. The entrepreneurs were asked, is your business making use of digital technologies for selling your product or service? It was surprising to us to know that 61% of the TEA and 73% of the established business said they did not use any digital technology because their business really doesn't require it. Only a small percentage, 13% for the TEA and 3% for the established business, had digital technology capabilities to sell their products and services before the pandemic. Here, we have a unique opportunity to do further research to understand what is going on there. Well, a question we have there is, has the pandemic reduced household income? And the obvious answer for that is yes. For most of the level C economies, what they are experiencing is that more than all the countries, so as a matter of fact, all the level C economies except Iran reported a decline in household income that is greater than 50%. It is to note that Jamaica, when we compare Jamaica, Jamaica's decrease in income was lower than most other level C economies. And this implies to us that the government intervention during the crisis had some positive effects.
Now we look at what the experts think or what they thought about. Now, them assesses how well each country supports entrepreneurship using 13 entrepreneurship framework conditions. These questions were asked of our 39 national experts, each of whom has an identified high level of expertise in at least one of the framework conditions. This allows us to examine how the experts rank the strengths and weaknesses of our Jamaicans based on each of the AFCs during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, without disclosing too much, the average age was 15 years. The males took up 69.2% and the females 30.8%. Education level was 20.5 at higher education and 79.5 at postgrad education. Specialization, 33% entrepreneur, 23 investor, 15.4 policies, business provider 30.8, educator or researcher 28.2. And you might find that some of them were overlapping. And the average number of years of experience was 16 years. So they know what they were talking about. Now, after generating the data from them, there were ratings that provided were based on the EFC 13 conditions. We found that the most sufficient of those were social and cultural norms with 5.8 and physical infrastructure with 5.2. The least evaluated, however, was government entrepreneurial programs, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial education at school, and research and development transfers. And you can see that. We can see, however, that entrepreneurship in school is one of the lowest. This was observed in 3/4 of all participating economies. Note 39 of the 50 rated it at last. We were at it second to last, so not too bad. Regardless, this means that many students will leave school not knowing how entrepreneurship works and how to start a business. We need to do something about that. Nonetheless, Jamaica, when compared to all other countries, we were placed first among the level C in terms of social and cultural norms. First. Now, of the 13 conditions, we only were sufficient in 2 compared to the others. The highest one was United Arab Emirates, followed by Saudi Arabia, Finland, and Netherlands, and Lithuania. Those were level A and level B respectively. Now for the level C, they tend to be lower than 6. So as I said, we were first in culture. Now, another way to rank Jamaica using the EFC was using the National Entrepreneurial Context Index. Now, this is an index that GEM uses to measure the ease of starting and developing a business in an economy. And what it basically does is just average the scores from the 13 EFCs. Jamaica ranked 34th of the 47 available. I think, yes, we should still be a bit proud of ourselves. Not proud of ourselves. But we were ranked 34th of the data available. This is useful for our stakeholders as an informed variable as it indicates whether Jamaica is an adequate environment for startups and businesses in entrepreneurship. Experts also provided some constraints and areas that they thought was evident in the pandemic.
So the expert identified some of the constraints. There are several of them, and you can view them on screen. I don't think we have time to go through all of them, but we will provide you with the QR code and you can read through them. We can't say everything, but we look forward to you reading these reports and having continued dialogue with us.
We now invite Dr. Gonnet Sinclair-Marad to come and do a special feature.
Thank you, team leader and teammate. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present on the behalf of my team on the area of entrepreneurship and the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, we chose this area as a highlighted chapter because we believe that both phenomena, that's entrepreneurship and the Sustainable Development Goals, are imperative to global economic, social, and environmental sustainability, as well as at the national level for our country, Jamaica. And in searching the other GEM reports, we rarely find an economy that analyzed their data the way that we did. So we are proud to have this as a hallmark chapter in our publication. Now, as many of you know, or I should say, as we all know, there are 17 SDGs established by the United Nations in 2015 with a total of 169 objectives, all aimed at reducing poverty and making life better on planet Earth for all of us, focusing on what I call the 5 Ps and what they have conceptualized as people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. So you can see why this is very important to our findings, relating it to our findings and documenting it in our report. Now, based on the data gathered in the APS, that's the Adult Population Survey, the majority of entrepreneurs are not aware of the SDGs, as you can see here in this chart. So the early stage entrepreneurs, or the nascent entrepreneurs, 85% of them are not aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. When we look at the owner-manager established firm, there's a similar pattern. 78% of them are not aware of the SDGs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is very concerning to us. Why? Because entrepreneurship involves innovation. It involves creativity. And at the end of the day, it involves monetizing of innovations and creativity from entrepreneurs. And therefore, if they are not aware of the SDGs, then that becomes an issue. It is a further concern because two very important plans in Jamaica were designed based on the SDGs. One is the 2018 Jamaica Voluntary National Review Report. Now, this report relates how we as Jamaicans can enable the implementation of the SDGs. It speaks to the youth, it speaks to women, it speaks to vulnerable groups. And if persons or entrepreneurs are not aware of the SDGs that this plan speaks to, then it becomes more than a concern. The other very important document for us, report for us, or plan for us, which is actually a blueprint for Jamaica, is the Vision 2030 plan. And this plan is so designed to align itself to the SDGs based on 4 pillars. And these pillars are 1, empowerment, 2, social and cohesive society, 3, economic prosperity, and the 4th one is healthy natural environment. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let us go back to the SDGs, and you can see how these 4 pillars are aligned to the 17 SDGs. So this is where our concern is as researchers and as entrepreneurs and as financial institutions. Okay, so there is a major concern. Now, the issue is furthered by the second question that asks if the entrepreneurs have identified any of these goals, if they have prioritized these goals in the operation of their businesses. And as you can see, depicted there on the pie chart, 70% of them said no. Now, to us, this finding is not a surprise because if the majority of them are not aware of the SDGs, then how can they implement, how can they prioritize the goals and the objectives? So, what we have done is to look at the relationship, the association between entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship and the SDGs. And I'm happy to share with you that the literature, we have deduced from the literature that there is a reciprocal relationship or there is likely to be a reciprocal relationship. And I'm challenging us here as researchers and as scholars to look further, use the data, and probably gather more data to truly establish this relationship. But from what we have deduced from the literature, there is likely to be a strong relationship between the entrepreneurship and the SDGs. What is our rationale? The literature, from a scientific approach, speaks to entrepreneurship as a driver for employment. It creates employment. And if it creates employment, definitely there'll be a direct arrow to generation of income. Once income is generated and there is disposable income, then entrepreneurs can take care of their basic needs. And depending on the amount of disposable income, then they can take care of secondary needs. And so we go back to say that, yes, this is more than hypothesizing or assuming. This is saying, based on the literature, we are making the connection that entrepreneurship can address SDG 1, reducing poverty. All right? Now, moving on, the majority of the entrepreneurs in the adult population survey, as mentioned by my colleagues, are females. And we're now deducing that if the majority of them are females and they are generating an income from their entrepreneurial activities, then of course they can improve their standard of living, their way of life, take care of their families, and by extension, their communities. And the literature has shown that once females are empowered, I was told by my team leader to stress that, women empowerment. By the way, the literature speaks, some literature, they speak to women empowerment, others speak to female empowerment, but in our report, we have operationalized to have one terminology, which is women empowerment. And so once women are empowered, and if you're to look at in our society here in Jamaica, we have single parent mothers, all right, and females who are also taking care of families and parents. And we believe, being backed and supported by the literature, that if females are empowered financially and socially, let's not forget that factor, that social component, then believe you me, in the Jamaican context, they can move mountains. And what are the mountains we're talking about? Their expenditure, sending their children to school, spending their income in the community, will advance the multiplier effect. So do you see how far that $1 earned will go across the communities? All right? So we strongly support women empowerment through entrepreneurship. And my able gentlemen here with us and on the in social media, YouTube, we need your support to do that. All right? It's not discrimination, but it's reality coming out of the literature, extant literature, and coming out of the findings of this report. So then, we believe that entrepreneurship can contribute to many of these sustainable development goals. Number 2, reducing hunger, good health and well-being, quality of education, and it goes on and on and on. Earlier, my colleague spoke about entrepreneurs relating to social and environmental sustainability. And so in doing so, they are actually contributing to SDGs 14, 15, and just responsible environmental practices. So we're happy that we're able to deduce from the literature and make a logical presentation in our report. Now, we are therefore positing that entrepreneurship can be a driver for the Sustainable Development Goals. And another arrow from SDGs, we're saying that SDGs can be used as a platform for sustainable entrepreneurship. Now, what is sustainable entrepreneurship? It's basically operating in a responsible way as entrepreneurs so that you're contributing to economic sustainability. So the innovations, the creativity, and the monetizing of such should be sustainable. We should be contributing to growth in terms of economic growth, creating more employment, and actually contributing to the bigger picture, the country's growth domestic product. So in terms of being responsible socially and, of course, environmentally. So that is what sustainable entrepreneurship is all about. So the bigger question is, how can you as entrepreneurs contribute to the SDGs? We are suggesting first and foremost, based on the data that we have analyzed, that entrepreneurs need to have a better knowledge of the SDGs and their respective objectives. They need to identify goals which are a priority for their business. They need to define clear objectives, actions, and key performance indicators to guide the process and to enable a sustainable entrepreneurial business environment. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has taken me to the end of the presentation on entrepreneurship and the Sustainable Development Goals. And in addition to this, my other colleagues, Dr. Andrea Sutherland and Mrs. Erica Donaldson, will expand on the way forward for entrepreneurship in Jamaica.
Good evening, everyone. So after all absorbing all that sobering data, we are going to tell you how we'll solve all our problems. But we do have some recommendations, and recommendations are born out of the data that we gathered. And when we look at what the data are telling us, we came up with these recommendations. Now, one of the things we need to recognize is that, yes, we are an island, but we are not isolated. We operate in a global environment. We are small, open economy. That means we're susceptible to external shocks. And so we, in coming up with these recommendations, we also looked at that and understand that, we have to try to immunize ourselves. You know what immunizing, right? So you don't get the virus. I think we've all been through that. Right? So some of it is immunization. Some of them we'll have to take the shocks, but we'll also have to learn how to manage them so that we can protect our economy. And we know that entrepreneurship is crucial to that. So what we did, we looked at, we categorized our recommendations into 3 categories. We look at the financial support, the availability of capital, fiscal policy, and infrastructure. So we'll start with support, as you see, and as the data did point out to us that financial support and the availability of capital is really a significant constraint to entrepreneurship in Jamaica. And we know that, especially our sponsors here at DBJ have been doing quite a bit in trying to get support, financial support for entrepreneurs. We talk about their Biggie program, we talk about the SERVE program, and many other programs. Problem is, though, we don't think, as the data did show us, that a lot of the activity is taking place within the metropolis areas, the St. Catherine and Kingston, not even Montego Bay, which was very surprising to us because of all the activity that happens there. And so we believe that one of the things we need to do is to try to get these programs into the rural areas if we are going to have development of the island, and if it is that we are going to reduce the migration of persons, everyone trying to crowd into the city, right? So we believe that these are good programs, but the challenge is how do we get them into the rural areas? And I'm sure you're working on that, right? So the whole issue of incubators, and again, we tend to focus on the city, the areas, within Kingston, Montego Bay, St. Catherine, and we do know the challenges that we have, with persons trying to relocate. It's very costly. If you're an entrepreneur starting a new business, it is very difficult for you to be faced with those costs while you're trying to develop this business. So we believe, again, that these incubators, we need to have them, a lot of them situated throughout where, and we know the JBDC does a lot, they travel around the island, but we believe that we need to have more stability and these incubators be available to businesses in the rural areas. Global partnerships, very important. One of the things we see happening now in the global economy, and is, when we think about what's going on, is the whole issue of, because of the pandemic and some of the geopolitical saber rattling that's going on, our largest trading partner, the United States, is thinking about nearshoring and friendshoring. So even with all the challenges that we have, what we need to do is begin to look to see where entrepreneurial opportunities will come from because of these decisions that they're making. Because one of the things that we do have, and I've been hearing this, I'm not telling you my age, from I've been going to primary school, that Jamaica, and I know most of you can relate to it, because of our strategic location, we play a very important role. And I think it is now coming to fruition where we now recognize the importance of our location, right? So we believe that it's important that we pay attention to what is happening and why it is that we can find opportunities in all these friend-shoring and near-shoring decisions that are being made. Of course, the tax incentives, we believe, again, we have seen it. We have seen what happened with the junior stock exchange. We know there's advocacy for a micro stock exchange, and I think that's something that we really need to look to because we have seen the successes. Many companies that started out as small businesses were able to raise capital on the junior stock exchange. Fostrich is one, and they're doing extremely well. And so we believe that if we can have smaller companies come on board, get access to capital, but what it will also do, where we see a lot of entrepreneurs having challenges, is the whole issue of governance. Because to be listed on an exchange, there are rules that govern the operations of the company, and we believe that this can only augur well for entrepreneurship in Jamaica. And of course, international grants, and as we move forward, we will see that as we get into a lot of the opportunities for nearshoring and friendshoring, that we will find other opportunities coming our way. Yeah. Now, the government does have a role to play, right? Fiscal policy, and we know that we have made many strides, especially when it comes to having access to capital where the government is not so heavily involved in the market, and so that gives opportunities for entrepreneurs to raise capital. But other things that, and we know many countries are looking at this because of the pandemic, the issue of flexible work hours, right? And in France, they have found that it has actually increased productivity, right? So these are things that we need to look at. So work from home, flexible work hours, because that can also generate more economic activity. Some of the support services for entrepreneurs, we need to provide one-stop shops. In other words, I should not have to go to 6 government agencies to get my company up and running, right? So, and especially if we're going to penetrate into rural areas, we need to design these facilities so that it is easy for entrepreneurs to get access to whatever facilities they need. Encourage entrepreneurship. I think my colleagues in presenting the data spoke of the importance of education. But what we have found is that a lot of it happens at some in high school, but mostly at the tertiary level. But if we are going to have entrepreneurship in our DNA, as our team lead says, then it has to start at least at the primary level, right? To get our youngsters, and they are brilliant, they have wonderful ideas, but what we also want is a culture where it starts at the primary level and there is support for these ideas when the youngsters generate them. I don't know if you all remember, savings in Jamaica was started when they came to school and you were encouraged, as the building societies, so you start building that culture at that stage, and you will find that in a decade or two, you would have that's a part of us, as we say, in our DNA. Transparency and the whole issue of legislation, lobbying is extremely important, and we believe that especially those of us who are trying to help small businesses and entrepreneurs, we need to lobby, we need to ensure that there's legislation in place that will foster entrepreneurship. And of course, the whole issue again of education, not just at the post-secondary level. We want to provide that because we know we now have gaps, but we start at the lower level with the youngsters and we eliminate that gap as we move forward. Now my colleague will now speak about infrastructure.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Much has been presented, and I was sitting down, reading the messages online, and I saw the faces. I saw some disappointed faces, and I have a particular slide in front of me. I have a passion for entrepreneurship, so I tend to get very candid about it. Now, it was said that the question was asked rather, how does Jamaicans perceive opportunities, challenges, and their own capabilities of starting a business? We're a confident set of people, don't we? Would you agree? So we believe in ourselves. So we are of the assumption, we're thinking and believing that we are capable, right? But what is happening? How are we feeling about the opportunities? How are we feeling about the economy? Is it enabling? Can we start, remain sustainable, and continue to create generational wealth? As an entrepreneur, I know I look like 20, but I believe for probably 20 years now, right? Or a little over 20 years, I can frankly say that the system is not necessarily designed for us to excel. And the data is a representation of such. All right? As a result of that, we do have more recommendations. So, Dr. Solomon spoke just now about education. And this is something that I have been lobbying government for many years in different capacities. One such capacity as the president of the Young Entrepreneurs Association. And I took this particular one to the Commonwealth. And when I was not able to be present wherever, I would send my presentation and my research notes. And I will continue to say that entrepreneurship needs to be included in the school curriculum at all levels. Not primary, not secondary, but at all levels of the core curriculum. Can a 5-year-old start a business? Thank you very much. My daughter is 10 years old. And she started her business 5 years ago. Randy can attest to it. Okay, thank you. Right? She speaks about profit. She speaks about money. She speaks about risk. And she goes to school as an entrepreneur every year for career day. Why entrepreneurship education? Educate our children so that we can ensure that we are fueling their creativity and innovation. Let them know that there are options. We went to school with mommy over there saying, I'm sending you to school to get a good job. We just wanted to pass so that we were employable. We cannot survive. We cannot continue to excel on that basis. Therefore, we need to empower, we need to educate our children so that they now know you can be an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, or an employee with entrepreneurial skill sets. As such, they will be of greater value to the companies that you're employed to. When they are of greater value to these companies, they are of greater value to us as a country. And as a country, we will become much more competitive. We can only be competitive based on our people, us. All right. I did say that I have a passion for entrepreneurship, right? Okay. All right. So the next one is to, of course, improve commercial and physical infrastructure to facilitate secure digital transactions. And we can see what is happening, right? Encourage mentorship programs. I'm going to get a little bit deep about this one again. So this is something that I also believe that we need a nationwide, a formal nationwide mentorship program for our young people that are starting businesses. By persons who have been there, done that, and can steer them in the right direction. Why? Entrepreneurship is hard. And the journey is lonely. It drives people to stress, depression. It breaks up homes. You name it. And they're sitting in your little corner all by themselves, watching the gentleman over there on social media. Like, but how him do it? What am I doing wrong? I must be doing something wrong. I wonder what him doing, what him wearing, what him driving. But for many of our young people, they believe what they see on social media, not realizing that he spent many years building his business from the ground up. So when they're not achieving that in 2-3 years, they give up. They no longer believe in the system because it didn't work for them. There needs to be post-registration support, right, provided by the government, the Companies Office of Jamaica, for persons that are starting businesses. Doesn't matter the age. Because, yes, you have given them the flyer to say that these are some of the things that you will need to do next. However, do they understand what they are reading? Are they reading it? You know what is happening? There are so many business owners out there right now, if we had the time and the resources to collect the data, that are indebted to the government without knowing it. Because they have a huge responsibility that comes with registration, and no one took the time to sit down with them and said, listen, you must communicate with the government whether or not you are trading, whether or not you are making a profit. If you don't communicate, it has serious financial implication. Where is the additional support? All right? Encourage an environment for an entrepreneurial culture. So we're going back to our female entrepreneurs again, and particularly within the rural areas, because we tend to focus a lot of our resources, right, in the urban areas. Asking for the government and for private sector to continue to stimulate entrepreneurial activities, again, for our female entrepreneurs in the rural areas. Provide an environment that is without discrimination. We need to do what? Close the gender gap. I have so many stories in this regard, but we don't have the time, right? Greater access, and I'm going to put some emphasis on that. Greater access to what? Resources. Funding. Funding is available. And it's not that money is not there, because there are times when the funding is available, but it's not being accessed, right? So what is happening? It means that they cannot access it. They are not loan ready. They cannot meet the requirement. It goes back to education, and it goes back to technical support and mentorship. They're not accessing it. There's a root cause. The money is going back, and they need the money. And they'll tell you every day that they need the money. But what they really need is the support that will enable them to now access funding. With that said, I will now hand over to Dr. Sutherland, who will continue to look at the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Again, we are looking at how we move forward, especially in this challenging environment. But again, challenges pose opportunities. And we know that there are headwinds that are coming. We hear it every day in the news, because of the pandemic and some of the challenges, especially with supply chains and, goods. Factories were closed and prices went up and all of that. And we're still struggling with some of that. And what has happened is that we have inflation, the highest level we have seen in 40 years. And in order to reduce inflation to manageable levels, central banks around the world, as you have heard, are increasing interest rates, including our own central bank. We have some issues that I can't get into, but we have stopped at 7% because, some things that are supposed to work in our economy are not working. However, the fact of the matter is that, especially in the United States, where they are looking to have their, what they call the federal funds rate, which means the lowest rate in the economy, that is going to be somewhere between 5.5% and 6%. Our central bank governor has said he wants a 4% above. So you know that the base rate for borrowing in Jamaica is going to be significantly high. right? And we have not added all the risk factors. So that's a significant challenge, especially for entrepreneurs. And so this comes back to the whole issue of funding, and not just funding, but affordable funding. That is going to be a significant challenge for us in the near future. But again, opportunities with all the other global challenges that we're seeing. And as I said, we need to look at areas that we can immunize. We need to be able to at least feed ourselves. Right? We don't have the capacity to do a lot of things. We don't have the capacity to manufacture medicines and a lot of the things that we need. So we have to import. But we can reduce that import bill by doing things for ourselves that we need to do. But we have to help the people, the entrepreneurs, who are going to help us to do this. The female entrepreneur, I don't think we can say enough. I just want to say that we need to understand the significant role females play in the holding together the social fabric that is deteriorating in our society, right? And a lot of it comes out of their lack of financial resources, right? They are not able to provide the support for their families. And so female entrepreneurs, and we were happy to see that many more females were getting into entrepreneurship, because we understand that as a society, if we are going to be able to mitigate a lot of these social issues, our females need to be empowered, right? So I don't think I will say much more about that, but that is something that we need to pay very close attention to. We're a matriarchal society. Our females are heads of the household. Many times they're doing it all by themselves, so they need support. Technology, very disappointing, extremely disappointing. And, if we are going to take advantage of some of the opportunities that will come our way, then I think it goes without saying. But a lot of this will now have to do with building partnerships, because we also understand that it's sometimes very costly, especially for small businesses, to get into the digital space. And so that is something that I think, I'm sure our colleagues at DBJ are looking very keenly at, right? Already they have a program to try and help businesses to get into more technology, using more technology in their businesses. Education, one of the things we saw when we were comparing countries is that there are certain things that are very common to level C countries. The financing, the whole issue of the female, the technology. Education was a big one, especially the countries that were grouped in our region, where the lack of education about entrepreneurship was really and truly a constraint for entrepreneurs. So we believe that it needs to start, as Erica so emphatically said, at the lowest level possible. Our children, when you go to some of these science fairs and you look at the innovation and the creativity of the youngsters, but guess what? It ends right there. So we need to find a way to support it, to take these good ideas and nurture them and grow them into businesses. I don't think we're short on creativity or ideas. We are just short on the ecosystem that will nurture these ideas. Export, very dismal. The data did point to this, that many of our entrepreneurs did not see export earnings as a huge part of revenue generation for their companies. And we see it in our trade figures. We import 4 times as much as we export. That's not a good place to be. And so we have to look at ways to get our companies, our entrepreneurs to think more about the big wild world that is out there. And, there are people that are begging for Jamaican products, but we just don't have enough. So we need to find ways. There was a discussion the other day, I was somewhere, people were talking about the whole issue of the yam and the fact that if we are not careful, we will miss a golden opportunity. right? Because somebody else is going to produce it. I remember Diane Edwards, when she was head of Jampro, said she went to a market somewhere in England, and the people had yam from Ghana, but guess what they were saying? That is from Jamaica. And yeah, so we know that we have very good products, right? So we need to find a way to get these entrepreneurs to get the products to the export market, because that is going to be that is how we're going to grow our economy. Rural development, I don't think we can say enough about that. The data show that we are not doing enough to pull our rural communities up. We're not doing enough to help those entrepreneurs. Most of our efforts are in the urban areas. And that's not good enough. If we're small, and so we need to pull everyone along. And so they need support. And we believe that a lot of these efforts need also to be focused on rural development. And we also want to stem the migration, right, from our rural areas. Because if all the young people become despondent and they leave, the communities are going to die. And we cannot have that. So we need to emphasize rural development if our nation is going to grow, and entrepreneurship is going to be the locomotive of that growth. We thank you for listening, and we will now have a moderator to field your questions.
So much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, let's hear it for the team. Okay. So we have time for questions, and then online, if you have any questions coming, Erica, you can let me know. I know we're running out of time, so we're very sensitive to the time. But any questions from the from there? Okay. Yeah, you have to use the mic.
Thank you, sir. Very good presentation. Members of the GEM team. A number of things came out in the latter part of the presentation just now, in terms of the recommendations and so on and so forth. But I'm just curious, from the GEM team's point of view, their research, if there is any empirical, any numeric data that you were able to put together to make some comparison to strengthen your plea and your call for transformation in infrastructure, in the program to facilitate, to put entrepreneurship in the education system. For example, I don't know, from your research, is there like a 5-point or 10-point, like a position paper views that you have in mind that you could make a submission to the Ministry of Education? I don't know if there's that. I didn't get that. So I don't know if any member of the panel or a team could address some of these issues. So for clarity, we are educators and we need to be, all right. And just before you answer, and I'm thinking seriously about it, like the data, if you could look at things countrywide, county-wise in Jamaica, or I don't know if you came across anything like that you could use, or over a period, 5 years, 10 years, to justify some of the points that were raised, numerically, or percentage-wise.
In your reading, you'll find that we have made a lot of comparisons before COVID, pre-COVID. So whenever we make discussion about a particular question, it would have been asked in 2016 and 17. References are made to that in comparison if we have improved or not. As it relates to points to the government, we're hoping that in his virtual presence that he see these and meet us for discussion as to the way forward. Another thing is that you are asking us about county-wise. Please remember that this was a global report. We're part of a global, so questions were not made specifically to Jamaica. These were questions for comparisons across the globe and the region. But please remember that Jamaica was the only English-speaking Caribbean country. It would have been difficult to compare with Trinidad and Barbados because they did not participate this year, as well as other Caribbean-speaking countries was the Dominican Republic, Spanish, right? So yes, there comparisons can be made based on the GDP per capita level economies, which we did do a lot of. We keep here, we talk about level C economies. That's the comparisons we're making. Level C economies globally, and we did look at the TEAs and the EBOs within parish or the type of businesses, whether they were just coming in as nascent or whether they are EBOs, established businesses. I hope when you go and read your personal report, you could probably have some more answers to your question. I would hope so. Thank you.
Sharon Nelson, College of Business and Management. I want to commend the team, yes, on a very comprehensive report and presentation. I have a comment to make following on what my colleague just said, and it concerns the recommendation. Somehow, I am feeling the entrepreneurial elephant in the room, because in St. James, we have a particular phenomenon of this scamming, and no one has addressed that phenomenon. It is not that entrepreneurs are not in schools. They are there, but they are in certain parishes engaging in illegal activities. So understandably, it is not going to be mentioned. So hence you have the entrepreneurial elephant. In the same way that economically, Jamaica has a large informal sector, and that data cannot be captured. But at the same time, when we have counties and we have data according to counties, we can mobilize entrepreneurial education, because these entrepreneurs, especially in the West, they are 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds, and they are entrepreneurs of necessity. So, yes.
Thank you, thank you. Please remember that the data we ask adults, 18 to 64-year-old adults. And I recognize your point. I take it as well. Thank you.
And I would like to add to that response that the questions that were asked in the questionnaire, these are standardized. They're standardized questions. They're standardized as per GEM Global. So we had to garner the data based on the questions. However, what we intend to do as a team, we're going to further interrogate the data, because we recognize some other areas that we can pull from the data to answer some of your questions. So we can break down into counties. We did according to parishes. We can do according to counties. And further, apart from counties, we can do according to subdivisions. If you're to look at the report, the majority of the TAs are from the parish of St. Andrew. However, where in St. Andrew, there are several divisions. We have rural St. Andrew, and we have St. Andrew below Constant Spring. So we would want to know if St. Andrew represents rural and urban. So those are some of the things that we'll be delving more into the data to derive some information so we can present it. And that's a plan that we have. Yes, yes, but kindly appreciate that we are guided by GEM Global, so we have to present accordingly. Yes, that's the restriction, but we can expand. Thank you.
Yes, hi. My name is Crystal Graham Chung. I'm actually an entrepreneur myself, and I didn't study here, so I'm not sure about UTEC's, I would say, policy in terms of how they teach our students in a practical sense of things. One of the things that I think Ms. Donaldson had said was about educating us every step of the way of our life in entrepreneurship, which I think is very good. Because as an entrepreneur, coming back, because I studied abroad, coming back to Jamaica and having to go into the system and figure out as the company office, for example, having to do my own taxes, doing certain things like that, that practical thing that us as entrepreneurs have to struggle through with making sure we're good with the government and not in any problems, is a struggle. It's hard to understand if you've never gone through it before as an entrepreneur. It's hard to follow the government policies. You go and you take one step, and then you go and they say, oh no, you have 5 more steps to do, and you end up going 4 steps back. So in terms of, my question is, for Jamaica and UTEC itself, for me, I know UTEC as being the school for more practical knowledge. How is UTEC going about teaching us entrepreneurs before we leave and go into the world to be able to understand as soon as you go into company's office what to do, how to do your taxes efficiently, how to do the practical things that will help us to not struggle as entrepreneurs and get discouraged to move on our journey as entrepreneurs. How is UTEC doing that to help those students before they leave?
Thank you for your question. I'm happy that you asked that question. So by the John Duncan School of Entrepreneurship, Ethics and Leadership, our students are studying their first degree in entrepreneurship. So they leave with an actual business. From ideation to, let us say, profitable realities. Right? So it's very practical. They go through the entire process, go through ideation, their business model, business plan, feasibility, so they have to do their own research as well. Product development, we also, marketing, we also maintain our relationship with our external parties. So the JIPO, so they would come in, do their presentation, we go through patent, protecting their IP, the whole shebang. And we also maintain our partnership and our relationship with our financial institutions like the John Duncan Foundation and DBJ. So on the 4th of April, my entrepreneurship students will be having their symposium where they will present on the growth and development of their business, and they'll be showcasing their products and services as well. Okay.
So you are invited to the symposium. You are. You're invited. And any other questions? Yes, from our sponsor. Go ahead, Kim.
I just wondered if anyone from the panel was going to comment on the special report on the leadership and ethics that is included.
All right, anybody?
You want to? To be honest, we had decided on not covering it and speaking. We didn't know if it was if you had used it, if it was for personal, and because we hadn't launched it officially yet, we weren't sure if you wanted to. Yes, okay. That was the reason that it was not. Okay. Yes, I thought you wanted probably to have it something as a special where you talk about that specifically.
Just to expound on for the special report on leadership and ethics, it's a very important report that we did as a special report, and it speaks to leadership and ethics at the global level and also at the local level, where we did a comparative analysis. So as decided here today, we can we can discuss it further in a forum. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Andrea Barrett from JDCL, and just an observation in the presentation, wonderful presentation, by the way, is the connectivity between entrepreneurship, innovation, and research. Research as a foundation to building out innovation and recognizing that innovation is not an event but a continuum. And so the recommendation for us to lobby or advocate to the powers that be across the nation the need to have a strong research culture as the foundation to build out our innovation and our entrepreneurship culture.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Barrett, for posing that question. And as the research writer team, we also recognize that. And we have placed it in our recommendation, the need for research and for further research in the areas of innovation and creativity and monetizing of those areas. And it is something that as scholars, as researchers, we can be challenged to do even further. And we will invite you because we want to further interrogate, as I said, the data to look at what exists and how we can expand and build on other publications.
Okay, so thank you so much for the questions. And we're going to pull it together now, and we don't have any questions on YouTube. All right, so we're just going to have a closing remarks, and we're going to go, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have benefited from the presentation. Have you? Yes? And we hope that and wish that the key stakeholders in the entrepreneur ecosystem really have benefited from this. We are saying that we hope the academics will use this finding to inform and develop new approaches to teaching entrepreneurship in the classroom. So I hope you take this report and look at it and see how we can develop that, myself included. How can we change and do some things in the curriculum to respond to what the report is saying? Policymakers who are listening on YouTube and who are here, I hope you use it as a reference point as you look for better ways to benefit entrepreneurship in Jamaica. We hope entrepreneurs who are here and online will gain insights in areas and focus on opportunities as they develop their businesses. For example, digitization is an imperative for entrepreneurs, and if you are going to remain relevant in this ecosystem. And that's coming out here. And we are seeing that most of our businesses are not taking on technology. That's a worrying sign. So entrepreneurs need to look at that. I'd like to also ask the sponsors would be encouraged. I hope, Kim, you're encouraged by DBJ, so that we can have further collaboration with you going forward and participation in the ecosystem. So we look forward to you continuing your support and increased support next year. So in thanking you, I'd like to thank you, Acting President, for being here and for your continued support for entrepreneurship, GEM, and just your general support to JD Seal and what we do. Thank you, sir. Thanks to Global Executive Director for coming online to speak to us. Thanks to JMB Foundation for being here. Thanks to DBJ for being here. The members of the media, the staff, the technical team, Mr. Russell and his team, the marketing and communication team, Mr. Bennett and Mrs. Beckford and their teams. Thanks to the GEM team from before, who have passed and blazed the trail for us, yes? And the present team, the gym team. Thanks to the virtual audience on YouTube for just being there. And I hope you will take this on. We'll be giving you a QR code as you leave so you can get access to the document immediately once you leave. And so you can read it. There's a lot more there than we could present. And I hope you understand that. So we try to really put it in some kind of format as best we possibly can. So I'd like to invite you to join us for refreshment outside. And thank you so very much for being here. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so very much. Please join us. And I know the time is well spent. So we'll give you a QR code before you leave, everybody. So you get, thank you so much. Please join us for drinks.